Greetings, Cleveland, and welcome to Creative Focus, the show that illuminates some of Cleveland's most talented and creative artists across the genres of dance, film, music, theater, and visual arts. I'm your host, Cornell Hubert Calhoun III, and I am honored and excited to have as my first guest the president and CEO of the historic Caribou House, Mr. Tony F. Sias. Tony, welcome to Creative Focus, and let's chop it up.
All righty then. Thank you for having me, Cal.
So was my intro for you theatrical enough? I mean, I'm trying to audition for our next show at Caribou.
You nailed it, my friend. You nailed it. I was like, who is this dude he's talking about?
Tony, to get started, I want to talk about two incidents that happened to me regarding Caribou and get your take on it. And then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions related to what I'm saying, all right? So after 4 years of undergrad at Talladega College, Talladega, Alabama, a HBCU, a proud HBCU school, I worked under a director by the name of Shedrick Lyons. He was an incredible theater director. He was a playwright. He was a sound technician, a set technician. And he actually renovated a small house, and it's set up on the hill from the campus. And that was our little theater, had about 150 people. So after I came home from college, my mother asked me, she said, "Are you going to continue to act?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but I don't know where I should go." And she said, "Well, go to the Caribou House. Caribou House, they hold plays." And so I said, okay. So then you fast forward, say like 20 years later, I'm teaching English at Glenville High School. My principal, Jacqueline Bell, asked me to start a theater program. And so I have about 20 drama students. In fact, some of my students actually performed for you at the All-City Musical when you were at the school district. And I was shocked because none of them knew about Caribou. In fact, one of my students lived on 90th and Quincy, and she had never heard of Caribou. So during this time, I had a play that was produced by Caribou, the Grand Prix, directed by Hassan Rogers, and Jerry McClammy was the executive director. In fact, I think she wore two hats. She was the executive director and the artistic director. So I told my students, I said, if you come to the play, I'll get you tickets, but you have to get your own transportation to and from the theater. So I get to the theater on opening night relatively early, no students, not a one. And I was devastated. So apparently Jerry saw the distress on my face, and she said to me, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I can't believe not one of my students came to the play." And she said, "Boy, what are you talking about? All your students are in there. They came early." So my point is, I want you to elaborate on in terms of, I talked to a couple of colleagues, and they said some people don't know about Caribou. Some of our viewers may not know about Caribou. So one, I'd like for you to give just a brief history about Caribou and its impact on the community. And two, which I think is very important, how does Caribou draw the youth into their programs? And also, how do we, because I'm included, how do we get young people to not only go to Caribou and other theaters for programs, but to actually be in the audience? Because, as you know, theater is a wonderful experience. It's a magical experience. So I'm done with my monologue. The stage is yours, sir.
Well, Caribou House is the oldest black producing theater in the country, celebrating 106 years. It was founded as a settlement house, and settlement houses were the early forms of social service agencies. And in 1915, when we were founded in the central neighborhood, and we were primarily serving Eastern European immigrants. But then at the point of the Great Migrations, African Americans began to move to the central neighborhood. And that around 1917 was the beginning of the integration of Caribou House. So a lot of people think that Caribou was founded as this integrated space, and that's not true. I think it speaks to the consciousness of the founders, Russell and Rowena Jelliff, who were a Jewish couple who had gone to Oberlin College And they were social workers, and they wanted to make a change in this community, and they chose arts as that vehicle. For the first couple of years, they used sports to try to engage community members. And then they looked at the arts as that primary focus. And so Carriacou was more than a theater. That's our brand, but our dance ensemble went to the World's Fair in the 1940s. Some of the most celebrated visual artists in our region who have gone on to have notable careers, one of which is Charles Soleil. So we have an incredible history of being a training ground. Then you think about those who have come over the years. So you think about people like Robert Guillaume from the television show Benson. He got his start at Caribou House. You think about Bill Cobbs. You think about Vanessa Bell Calloway and Imani Hakeem, and the list goes on and on and on. But those people got their training, their foundation at Caribou House. So many times, our program was so rigorous at the time that when people would go on to New York or Chicago or LA, and they would see Caribou on their resume, they would get carte blanche because they knew that these people had a solid foundation in their arts discipline. When you think about young people today, it's important to know that, I'm excited to know that Cleveland Metropolitan School District is really infusing arts education back into the curriculum in a very intentional and strategic way. And so we want to celebrate that because that means that young people are getting sequential instruction in the arts. Then they are then begin to once again be exposed to arts and theater. When you think about the community, we think about Cleveland, but we think about the greater Cleveland area. So we have after school and weekend programs in arts education, and I say it's for lifelong learners, but I also say it's from the womb to the tomb. So we have classes in dance, theater, vocal music, and we're doing some technology work, some visual stuff, but it's really around how young people, individuals can use their handheld technology to create innovative pieces. Because people want to be able to say, hey, I've said a monologue, I've done a monologue, I've done a dance, and with social media, they want to know how you post it, how you edit, and how you then get that out there to the masses.
So how did you get your start in theater? I mean, everyone has that, that moment. My moment was I had to attend a play as a freshman, didn't want to. Told my professor I wasn't really interested in theater. She told me either I'll go or I'll get an F. So I went, and I got hooked by the bug. So, I mean, how did you get into theater? Into the art.
So arts and culture was kind of in my DNA, my family. Everybody had to play piano for a period of time, and then you had to go to another instrument. I played piano for about 5 minutes, and I went on to play the cello for 6 minutes. But I was always in the church choir, things of that nature. But as early as 5 years old was my first production, and I was Jesus in the Easter pageant at Hearts Baptist Center, daycare center. And the story goes, my father was there with my mother, and he leaned over to my mother and said, Helen, and I was playing Jesus. She says, why is the devil playing Jesus? Just like And many folks have heard that story, and since then it's just been on and on. I have to say that in addition to that, every night we would have Saturday nights after we did all the cleaning and the chores and all that stuff, and you got all cleaned up, we would have to have a family talent show. And everybody would have to do their entertainment for the evening. And somewhere in there, we watched Lawrence Welk and Hee Haw. So entertainment was always just a part of the fabric. And I'm very fortunate. I have a cousin who's an opera singer, Grace Bumbry. And so watching Grace's career just really explode around the world as one of the #1 international opera stars was really influential on the potential of the power of the arts. So I went on to, in high school, did productions. I then graduated from the Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi, okay. Another celebrated historically black university. Yes, yes. And then came to Ohio University to get my Master's of Fine Arts in Theater, and then got to Cleveland as a part of a residency program with the Cleveland Playhouse.
Okay. So what was your first show at Carmel? Do you remember your first show at Carmel?
Yes, and yeah, I do. My first show at Carmel was a show called Oak and Ivy, and it was about Paul Laurence Dunbar, the Ohio poet.
Okay.
And it was talking about his life. Paul Laurence Dunbar was actually the first black poet to have a poem read during the inaugural ceremony. It was not on the day of the inauguration, but it was a part of that week-long event. So it was really exciting to play Paul Laurence Dunbar, to really be able to interpret all that incredible poetry that was integrated in the piece. So it was a great first experience at Caramel House.
My first audition at Caramel in 1978. I'm dating myself, but people know how old you are. Somebody out there knows how old you are. The Brownsville Raid.
Okay.
And my first actual show, my first actual performance was Soul Sounds in 1990, directed by Reggie Kelly. That was my first experience on the stage. Now, do you have a preference in terms of acting, directing? Do you have a preference on? And what difference do you see in preparation for in terms of preparing yourself?
So from the director space, I think you're looking at all of the elements that go into directing a show. You're looking at sounds, lights, costumes, the acting, the script. What is your concept statement that then is going to drive all of your designers to align their work to that concept statement? Research is key, knowing these characters inside out, and also my approach is I do know the characters. I most often have a big idea of what I want to see, but it's really a collaborative process with the artists, the actors, to really, for them to bring their perspective to the table, because it's the process that then builds the character, and it's not me walking in saying, this is what I want, this is how I want it goes in this box this way. I want to see what the actor is bringing to the table. So it's an ongoing process of exploration. And I look at that both from the actor perspective and the director perspective. From the acting perspective, the preparation is research, but it's really finding out who the character is on paper and where that character lives in me. And so I'm a physical actor, and from the perspective of, some people can do an easy job of coming into the first day of rehearsal off book. And for those who don't know, that's coming into the rehearsal knowing all your lines. Right. Well, I can come in very familiar with those lines, but it's the blocking. And of course, the blocking is the director telling you, the staging, where you go to do what. Exactly. And so that really informs who the character is and how it evolves and develops for me. And that it's really visceral, it's gut for me. And I love the live theater process. I like the monetary gains that come from film and television. But I'm truly an old school theater guy.
So speaking of live theater, I know COVID had an impact on all theaters, and we went back to, or because I'm family. So Caramel went back to live theater with Ma Rainey. Yes. I was fortunate to have a part in that, a wonderful experience. So Caramel they obviously were doing live theater. Are we still doing virtual programs?
So we are doing virtual programming. We currently have a piece up called Rooted in Change, and it's a documentary about Caramel's role in social justice from the point of its inception. And so it's really exciting to have community partners who have helping us to present this, Erie Bank. So we're excited to still have virtual programming happen. And Cal, I like to say that, at the onset of the pandemic, and really at the point that George Floyd was murdered, we knew that we had to step forward and go on the front line and use the vehicle of theater to begin the issues and address social justice and racial inequity, using the theater as that vehicle to educate, entertain, and activate our community. And we'll continue to do that work in the virtual space, but we're excited to have live theater back today, and we're excited to open the play The Mountaintop tomorrow on Friday.
Now, you sent me a piece for our viewers. Can you tell me a little bit about that piece?
So that was another one of our virtual pieces that we streamed, and it was entitled Greenwood, An American Dream Destroyed by Celeste Bedford Walker. And it is the story of the Tulsa Massacre. And when we talk about the Tulsa Massacre, it's also known as Black Wall Street, where this was an incredible, thriving community in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The neighborhood was called the Greenwood community. There were doctors, bankers, oil barons, the list goes on. It was an exceptionally thriving community. And of course, the entire community was destroyed by fire, by gunfire, by airplane, bombing, bomb dropping. So it was incredible. And the story goes that there was a young man who had a thriving shoe shine business, that he had gone and gotten on an elevator, and that he tried to touch this woman inappropriately. And the story goes, what happened was, the woman was the elevator operator, and the elevator was not level with the floor. And when he walked into the elevator, he tripped, and he reached for her. Well, when he reached for her, she began to scream and shout, and things go awry from there. And that was the inciting incident to the massacre. But what's important was that the community was always trying to see how to dismantle the overwhelming success of this thriving Black community in Tulsa in 1920.
Okay, so we have a clip of that show, and we're going to run it now, and then we might have some comments about it later.
Great.
100 years ago was the thriving and prosperous Black community in the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Greenwood Avenue. They've created their own American dream here, I see.
Since we can't do business with white folks in Tulsa,
we're going to keep on creating our own Negro Wall Street right here.
From award-winning playwright Celeste Bedford Walker and Carioca House, America's oldest Black producing theater, comes Greenwood, An American Dream Destroyed. Comes the story of one family's up-close and personal account of one of the most ignored moments in American history, the Black Wall Street Massacre.
I think I'm in trouble.
What kind of trouble?
Big trouble with the law.
What did you do?
They're saying that I
That you what?
put my hands on a white woman. I'm getting out of town.
I'm leaving with you.
Hey, have y'all heard?
Heard what?
Jimmy Jones was just arrested down Greenwood Avenue. They're going to lynch him. It's right here. Look.
There's 3 white men just broke into the courthouse demanding Jimmy be turned over to them.
I just saw the National Guard marching in,
Oh, thank God.
but I don't know whose side they're on. Running gunfights, mobsters set fires.
That white mob came for dear old Greenwood.
Hello?
Dr. Jackson. Frank!
Everybody get down!
White rage let loose. An invasion. Bombs from planes overhead raining down sticks of dynamite. In the aftermath of the disaster, all surviving Negroes were placed under arrest. The dead were dumped unceremoniously into mass, unmarked graves. But Molly's dream for the living is still living on. A better American dream.
Greenwood, An American Dream Destroyed. Beginning this June from Carioca House, presented by Bank of America.
Wow, that's powerful. So Tony, is there any way that people who didn't see Greenwood prior to have the opportunity to see it? Can they go on the Carioca website and see it, or?
It's not currently available, but it will come up sometimes this calendar year.
Okay, great.
So check us out.
I will. I actually watched it, but I'd like to watch it again. A question, with COVID, and I know when we did Ma Rainey, we were COVID tested twice a week. We wore our mask until, we were prepared to go on stage. What protocols for COVID are in place now for Carioca and Carioca performances that patrons should know?
So we ask that you keep your mask on at all times during the performance and once you enter the building. We check your temperature, as well as we ask that you either bring your COVID vaccination card or PCR test. We want to keep everyone safe. Our entire cast and crew are vaccinated, and that it's around safety. We're turning the corner right now. We want to continue to be able to move in the direction, so at some point, hopefully in the near future, we can all be mask-free. But until then, we're going to stay masked up.
Right. I enjoyed that process because safety is foremost as far as I'm concerned. So I'm gonna put you on the spot, Tony.
Okay.
Can you give us any hint of what you may do in the next season? I'm hoping some August Wilson, 7 guitars or something that I can,
Well, I'm going to say that.
Or at least give me the concept if you have a concept.
Well, what's always important for us is that we're doing socially relevant entertainment, theater, and that social justice, diversity, equity, inclusion, racial equity, and shows that speak to that are really important. And sometimes when you say that, one thinks, oh, it's doom and gloom. No, there is black joy in all of that, and we should be able to find it. So usually we choose a couple of musicals. We kind of want to do something that is classical from the American standpoint, black canon, and we also want to do something that has some comedy, some humor. We're determining at this point whether or not we do a 4 to 6 show season. Pre-pandemic, we were doing a 6-show season. But we're excited to kind of elevate our work in the racial equity space in terms of developing new content, whether it's short plays, whether it's, and when I say short, I'm talking about 5-minute plays, 3-minute monologues that really address issues of racial equity and really having conversations around what this means and really taking a deeper dive, really using vehicle as that, once again, that vehicle to not only entertain, but educate the community about the challenges in the black and brown community, as well as then activate them to move forward for change and improving the community in which we live in.
What's the selection process for plays? I know a lot of the audience would like to know, how do you go, what goes into selecting plays? And is it generally just 1 or 2 people, or is it, I know some theaters have committees where they look at different plays, they actually read scripts, or they take recommendations. What is the Carioca process for a play selection?
So it's an internal, very small group of probably 2 or 3 that review. We're looking at really what's some of the national trends, the work that's happening around the country, some of the hot topics that's in society, and really just trying to create a balance for our audience. I mean, we have our folks who've been with us for many, many years, and we're trying to engage, millennials and younger people. So we want to be able to have a diversity of work that speaks to current topics, that then provides a perspective that it gives everyone, most people, a point of entry to come and have an experience. So it does go back to, what musicals, 2 musicals we want to do, what 2 comedies, and, what dramatic pieces. So that's kind of like our approach. And that will continue to be the formula moving forward. From the committee perspective, we do want to broaden that. In terms of having another group of people to come in to help the selection process. But we also, that takes capacity in terms of the people to help support the process. A lot of people want to submit plays and things of that nature. We're not there yet in terms of, hey, I wrote this play. We're gonna, at some point in the next year or so, really bring back our new play festival. And we're excited about that. So coming soon, a person will be able to say, hey, we'll have a process, because I think dropping your play off right now, that's not included in our process. So we're going to have the infrastructure in place to be able to vet plays, to talk about how we develop this work, and then give more artists the opportunity to see their work on one of our multiple stages.
I know years ago they had the Joyce Whitley Festival of New Play, Arena Fest, exactly. I participated in that several times. It was quite an experience and an opportunity to get playwrights, new playwrights, shown, because it's difficult to get plays on stage. You know what I'm saying? It's a process, because theaters want to make money, and they got to be certain that work will draw an audience.
And coupled with, educating the writer about the process, because many novice writers have great ideas and concepts, but there's a role in terms of dramaturgy that helps the playwright structure the play and do edits with the play. And I think that many times we have an opportunity to help educate and partner with our local writers to understand that what you see on the stage may have been a 2 or 3 year process of development, multiple reads, multiple edits, multiple changes. And many people think they put that thing out there, it's ready to go. And most often it's far from that.
Tony, I didn't even mention this to you, but I want to get into this because when I returned to Caramoo to do Ma Rainey, the first rehearsal, you were there, and you said, "Welcome home," and that's special. And I think most of us who've performed at Caramoo, it's a beloved institution for us. Why do you think that is? I mean, people perform at a lot of different venues. I've performed at venues all over Cleveland, but I still don't feel the way I feel when I'm on the stage at Caramoo. And I know a lot of alumni who feel the same way I do. Why do you think that is?
Well, you know, the word Caramoo is a Kiswahili word that means a place of joyful gathering. And the spirit of that ruminates and lives throughout the halls and walls and stages of Caramoo. And so when you think about the incredible legacy of the institution and great people like Langston Hughes, who got his start at Caramoo and developed so many plays and partnered with Zora Neale Hurston, that lives there. The fact that black and white folks together were addressing social justice issues 100 years ago in that institution. I am of the opinion that the spirit of the ancestors continue to support the vision of the institution in our very storied past, but never allow us to get away from who we are. And we are a joyful gathering place in the center of our community.
Well spoken, sir.
Thank you.
What is your ongoing vision for Caramoo? I mean, where do you see Caramoo in the next 5, 10 years? What would you like to see? What would you like the audience and the patrons of Caramoo to experience?
Well, I think a couple of things. To continue the renovation of our Caramoo campus. Since 2017, we completed phase 1 of our campus renovations, which was the Jelliff Theater. Then phase 2 was to do all the ancillary areas outside of the theater. So we have a brand new gift shop, box office, gallery, and lounge. And phase 3, which we have begun, will include an outdoor stage, a destination location marquee on the corner of East 89th and Quincy, and a bistro, and the renovation of the Arena Theater. So at that point, the theater wing of our campus will be complete. So my larger vision over the next 5 years is to complete the renovation of our education wing and to have a presence in our community that goes beyond the footprint of East 89th and Quincy. So we have a vision to expand a bit more. And that will, of course, that's talk about long-term investment. But that's what I see. And when I talk about that brand, in the virtual space, we have an opportunity to continue to reach so many people. You know, our first piece, Freedom on Juneteenth, was our first piece in response to the George Floyd murder and celebrating the holiday of Juneteenth. Our goal was to reach 10,000 people. Well, within the first 48 hours, we had reached over 50,000 people around the country. And that was a clear indication of what we could actualize moving forward. So that's a part of the vision. Last piece I would say is that to have a healthy endowment so that for generations to come, there is money there to ensure that we can continue setting the stage for the next hundreds and hundreds of years for this legacy institution.
Question. I can recall performing at Caramoo when there were 3 plays going on at one time. We had a play in the Jelly, we had a play in the Arena, we had a play in Annie Mae's down in the, do you think that will ever ever happen again? And is it feasible to happen? And what's your take on that, the possibilities?
I think that's possible. I do think that the challenge comes in terms of that was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when that kind of thing was happening. So a part of the renovation is looking at sound and light control, because sometimes if you're in one theater, there's a sound bleed from theater to theater. So we're addressing some of those concerns. The other piece is that you think about parking. So we have to then be able to accommodate that level of parking and activity in the building. But I would say, Cal, that currently it might not be theater, but there's programming. So we have community programs that include a concert series, a comedy series, and other talkbacks, conversations. So there are multiple activities that do currently, pre-pandemic, that do currently happen concurrently at the same time.
Okay. Well, I was just asking because I remember that. I can see coming in, and there were people going into all three different theaters.
Well, I was doing a show at Caribou House called Black Eagles, and at the same time there was a show in the arena called Women of Plum. Okay. And so I experienced that as well. And one of the first, before I was able to direct on the main stage, you got your first opportunity down in Annie Mae's Cafe in the basement.
Exactly.
And so sometimes you could hear the toilet flushing over your head during the production. But as a young director, you wanted the opportunity and to then move from Annie Mae's Cafe to the 100-seat arena to the main stage theater. So I think that's really important, and it's really fond memories for me.
Because I remember having some Arena Fest plays in Annie Mae's, and we rehearsed in Annie Mae's. In fact, I think the last time I did a show prior to Ma Rainey, we rehearsed down in the basement of Annie Mae's. Yeah. Tony? Yes. I really appreciate you coming out today. My special guest, Tony F. Sias, President and CEO of Caribou House.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and my honor. So that's it, Cleveland. Remember, an artist, a true artist, is not only inspired, but he inspires others. I'm your host, Cornell Calhoun III for TV20 and Creative Focus. Until the next time is our time. Be well, be safe, Cleveland.